In the past, just like Toyota's own Prius hybrid, hybrids have always taken the brunt of pretty much every single automotive joke. Well, besides the Nissan Altima. Nowadays, just like all other automakers, Toyota has been embracing the hybrid in full force, not only to hopefully subdue the bullying of their own Prius, but to also bring light to their other hybrid products as well, like this Corolla Hybrid. So today, I wanted to take the time and show you guys Toyota's excellent little fuel sipper of a car, the 2024 Corolla Hybrid. Welcome. So this marks the 12th generation of the Toyota Corolla, also known as the Corolla E210. Toyota first introduced the E210 for the 2020 model year, and since then it's been one of Toyota's best sellers, just like how it's always been. And Toyota wanted to improve on that, and they offered the hybrid. That might have been a good move on Toyota's part because it got a 4-year jump up against the Honda Civic Hybrid that's coming out in the next few months. That's touting 200 horsepower and similar MPGs to this. But today we will still be praising and talking about the excellent little Corolla. Now this Corolla in particular is a 2024 Corolla SE Hybrid with all-wheel drive in a relatively new color for Toyota, blueprint. It's a very nice looking dark blue, and especially in the sun it really looks nice. The MSRP of this Corolla SE Hybrid, because it has the technology package for $1,300, is about $29,530. And this one, being the SE, gives you a few standard sporty options like a body kit that goes along the front bumper, the side skirts, and also a special rear bumper with a diffuser and a dual exhaust. You also get sport tuned suspension in the Corolla SE, and you get a sport mode too. And as far as that premium package is concerned, Toyota gives you upgraded side view mirrors with a blind spot system and also LED turn signals. You also get a sunroof on that premium package and also a wireless charger inside. Toyota offers the Corolla Hybrid in 4 distinct trim levels. We start at the LE, that's $23,500. Then we move up to the SE, like this one, for $25,000. Then the Nightshade, and then lastly the range-topping XLE Hybrid for about $27,000. But most likely they'll be about $30,000 at the dealership. With this new Corolla Hybrid, I had a feeling that it might have messed with the Prius's sales, and thankfully it hasn't, because Toyota was smart enough to make a distinction between the Prius and the Corolla. And of course, because you have the Corolla, you have the lesser of the power for the powertrains, but you still have stellar MPGs. Now, as Toyota says, Corolla Hybrid's engine features performance that you can feel, and with its 138 horsepower, the Corolla will constantly be revealing its power to you. But this is a 1.8 liter powerhouse of an engine. Of course, it's paired to a hybrid system as well, but this engine itself is a 1.8 liter dual overhead cam inline 4. It makes 96 horsepower on its own, but it is paired to 2 electric motors. One between the engine and the transmission, which is an eCVT, and one for the rear axle, because this one is an all-wheel drive Corolla, giving this a total system output of 138 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. It's slow, of course, but it's a Corolla. It's okay. These figures get this 2,900 pound fuel sipper to 60 miles an hour in a little bit over 9 seconds. It is lethargic, but we'll talk about how it drives. It's not as slow as you may think it is. It is slow, don't get me wrong. It is slow, but it's not as slow as you think it is. We all know by now that the Corolla Hybrid's main strong suit is fuel economy and not performance. Toyota touts 47 mpg in the city, 41 on the highway, and a combined rating of 44. I've been getting about 43, 44 mpg with a pretty heavy foot because I'm used to driving my 8-cylinder SUV, but it's really been getting extraordinary gas mileage. And it's also really nice because 20 bucks almost fills this thing up. And that's because of the 11.3 gallon gas tank in this little guy.
Now, believe it or not, the Corolla might actually be smaller than you think it is. This is actually almost 3 inches shorter than the current Corolla hatchback, sitting at 169 inches, which is pretty nice. You can also see, because we have the SE today, we have these dark graphite colored 18-inch alloy wheels that are specific on the SE. The pre-facelift versions of these got the same wheel, just not graphite. Now, I will be honest, I personally prefer the Corolla hatchback because of the versatility, but this one you still don't lose practicality. Toyota gives you 3 different ways to get into the trunk of your Corolla. You can either push and hold the button on your key fob, push and hold the button inside the car, or you can just use this button on the trunk itself. And that reveals 13 cubic feet of volume. It's not too bad, but the floor is raised just about an inch because of the hybrid battery. And also because of that hybrid battery, there unfortunately is not a spare tire in the back of the Corolla Hybrid, but the normal Corolla does get that donut. Aside from that though, you can see the Corolla is pretty practical. But if I have the sedan like this one, I would put the roof rails, well, the crossbars on it. Now, even though this Corolla is shorter than a lot of its competition, on the outside, it's actually really roomy in the back seat. Dare I say bigger than some of its competition. First of all, you can see I'm 5'9" and the driver's seat is in the position that I sit in, and I have great legroom. I can fit my feet under the seat, and I have a little bit of headroom too. If you're maybe a little bit over 6 foot, you might have some complications, but it's honestly surprisingly big back here. You do sit a little bit upright in the rear seat, but it's not necessarily uncomfortable. This SE has the cloth interior, which is nice and soft. It feels good, feels pretty durable as well, and it's relatively easy to clean. If we look on the back side of the seat, you'll see that there's an armrest, which is actually pretty big and soft, thankfully, with 2 medium-sized cup holders, so thankfully there's some accommodation back here. There's also cup holders in each of the doors, well, a bottle holder, 1 each. I almost forgot to mention that even though this is a hybrid, the rear seat is still a 60-40 split setup, so it's still pretty practical, but there isn't a pass-through between the rear seats. The last 2 things I want to talk about back here that I like are that the rear windows are auto up and down, and you also get USB Type-C ports for both rear passengers. But in the Corolla, I wouldn't even expect this, and you don't even get this in the Civic, but we won't find air vents for the rear passengers. Now, that means we're about to drive this thing as we get into the front seat, but it's actually pretty nice in front of here as well. Thankfully, the interior quality stays the same in the front and the rear seats. I also like that the front windows are auto up and down as well, so 4 auto up and down windows. The door panel has a nice soft touch feeling, the top part does, as well as the armrest, but of course as we go down, the plastic gets hard touch, but it doesn't feel cheap, thankfully. And of course this thing has push button start along with the smart key system, so this is the key for the Corolla Hybrid nowadays. It's a very nice looking key. Toyota uses this key on a lot of their products, but because this has push button start, we can just keep this anywhere inside the car and push the start, well, the power button in this case, to go. Yeah, it's pretty quiet. So now, welcome to the cockpit of this Corolla Hybrid. It's pretty nice up front here. You can see the typical 3-spoke Toyota steering wheel. In this case, it is not leather wrapped, but it still has decent feeling faux stitching on it. There are buttons on the wheel as well. The left side, those buttons control volume, audio, and Bluetooth controls. And the right side, those buttons control the Toyota Safety Sense system. And then there's a mode and track forward and backwards button. If we look up towards the gauges, you'll see that they're pretty simple on this SE, a little bit underwhelming, but there's nothing wrong with them. The font just kind of looks like it's from 2014, but Toyota does offer nicer gauges in the higher trims of the Corolla. And there's also a helpful little information screen in the center of the gauges as well that lets you go through various information and settings. Thankfully, in this SE, the headlights are automatic, but of course the wipers are not automatic, but they are intermittent. I almost forgot the horn. A very quiet sounding horn inside of the car, but I guess it does make a little bit of noise outside. As you can see in the center, this one also uses Toyota's current connected services infotainment system. It's pretty straightforward and to the point. I use Apple CarPlay religiously in this. It also does Android Auto, and both platforms are wired and wireless, which is nice. The infotainment system itself isn't bad, but I just like being able to have a home screen that I can set more than just one page on. But the system is very snappy, very quick. You can turn off the beeps, thankfully. But I have no problem with it. This one does not have navigation, so you actually have to subscribe to get GPS. But again, besides the lack of the home screen, I have no problems with this. It's great. It's very responsive. When you put the Corolla into reverse, you can hear that wailing noise that hybrids do, but this has a backup camera with guidance lines, but they don't steer with the wheel. That's kind of shocking for a 24, but at least the camera quality is pretty good. Below the screen, you can see this has single zone automatic climate control. It's very easy to use. The controls are all hard touch physical knobs and buttons, which I appreciate. Nothing involves the screen itself, so that's good. Underneath that, there's a Qi wireless charger setup and a USB Type-C port. This is actually the one that you use to connect for CarPlay or Android Auto. Now we can see the drive mode selector for the Corolla SE Hybrid. You can see you can go between Sport, Normal, and Eco. I'll talk about how they work a little bit later, but you actually do notice a difference. We can now see the traditional shifter for the Corolla Hybrid. I'm very glad that they use this normal setup instead of the Prius-like shifter in the Prius and a few of the electric Toyotas. So this is much better. Of course, you can hear this has an electric parking brake and auto brake hold. Next to that, there are two reasonably sized cup holders, and there's a pretty soft touch armrest with red stitching because this one is the SE, and a relatively small center console, but it's not teeny tiny. There's a USB Type-C port in there and a normal car charger style power outlet. So thankfully, connectivity is very great in here, and storage is pretty decent as well. If we look up top, this does not have an auto dimming rear view mirror, but that's something that happens when you get the SE trim. Thankfully though, because of that premium package, you do get a sunroof. I also like that there's LED lights throughout the interior as well. But it's generally pretty nice in here. I will say the Civic's interior does feel a little bit more premium, but this one still works very well too. So the Corolla Hybrid has actually been a good car to drive in this almost week that I've had it. Right now, frick, I was about to go, but now you can see that line of cars that's right here. But I can put myself into sport mode right now, and this thing isn't fast, so let's go. It chirped the front tire. Yeah. Like, it's pretty slow. It's a Corolla, but in daily use and when you're actually driving this in a commute and things like that, it's honestly pretty good. I have no problems with the powertrain. I mean, I could use a little bit more power, of course, because it's pretty lethargic sometimes. As we'll see on the highway it is, but around town it's perfectly fine. This one has the CVT, but I am glad that this one doesn't do anything like fake shifts or nonsense like that. It's true to what it is. It's true to being an economy car. Most of the time I stay in normal mode, and it's honestly quite comfortable. The steering has a nice weight to it in normal mode, but it still is relatively light, which makes it feel very nimble. You can probably see maybe in this camera, but the car chooses to go into EV mode in its own free will. I can make it go into a manual mode, but an EV mode manually, but I have to be going, I think, under 40 miles an hour. We're gonna go back into sport mode right now and then see how it is on this open stretch. You ready? I'm full throttle and I'm barely passing this Q5. Like, it's not dreadfully slow. I've driven cars that are slower. This car just isn't fast. It's not even quick. It's fine For a Corolla, it's perfectly fine. You can also see at high speeds like this, there is some road noise and there is wind noise as well. But those are also drawbacks with low rolling resistance tires, and that's how you get that 40 miles a gallon. The engine is very smooth, and the transition from gas to electric is electric to gas is very smooth too. But listen, that's not even full throttle, that's maybe half throttle, but that's just what the car does to get to the speeds that I drive at. If you drive slow like normal Corolla drivers, it's honestly a very quiet and refined hybrid powertrain. Like right now I'm driving at typical Corolla speeds and I can barely hear the engine. It's just a low humming sound. The ride is very good, even with these bigger wheels. Of course it's stiffer because it's the SE. Let's get around this NX here. Give it the beans. Like, yeah, it's not really slow because it still gets to the speeds that you want to do. It's just, it takes some time to get there. It's about 9 seconds to get to 60 miles an hour in this car, but that's not really why you buy this. As you can see, like right now, I'm stuck behind this egg and we're driving slow, and it's very smooth, it's very refined. It's been a great car to drive. It doesn't feel like a shitty cheap car like a lot of economy cars may feel like. Corollas, even though they're small cars, have always had a nice substantial feeling to them, and this one doesn't disappoint as well. The steering has a nice weight to it. When you go into sport mode, it actually stiffens the steering a little bit. So you notice it's like a little bit quicker turning and it's a little bit more playful. But the power, this just has no power to really be fun to drive, but it kind of is at the same time because it's nimble. Okay, we're gonna get on the highway now. We'll see. I don't even need sport mode. It doesn't do that much. We can do, I guess, like from a stop. I'll do that. Like Corolla people being stupid. Okay, you guys ready? Let's do this! It's downhill. 60. Full throttle still. 70. 80. Okay. It's fine. Like, it's fine. You know, it's not really slow, but when it comes to trying to pass people on the highway, like, you watch this BMW. When it comes to passing people, I mean, it's not terrible, but it does make a noise like you shouldn't really, you're doing a disservice to the car by making it, you know, really scream like this. But at high speeds, it's actually pretty smooth. It's very composed. Being on 225 with tires, it makes it pretty planted as well in corners. The B mode, if you're wondering what that does, that's like an engine braking mode. I'd mainly use it downhill, maybe if you're driving spiritedly, but it doesn't really do that much in terms of power. But there really haven't been any crucial issues with this car that have been, you know, affecting my experience with it. It's just been the road noise, but I've gotten used to it. You'd get used to it. It's not that noisy. Wind noise is pretty good as well on the highway. It's a great car all around, but for me, it just doesn't have enough power to make it really appealing. Like, it's just, or we're gonna see in a second here. Let's see. Like, it's not bad, but it's just not fun. And, you know, you guys know I like to have fun behind the wheel, but it's not bad for the normal commuter. But I've been driving this for the past few days, not exactly like this. I've been driving more normally, and I've been still averaging about 42 or 43 mpg. That's what's great about this thing. If you drive this even more gingerly than me, I know you'll definitely see 50 mpg. So that's really the strong suit with this car. If you want more power out of your hybrid Toyota, Prius. The Prius makes about 200 horsepower in base form. So
that makes sense where they try to make that difference.
And that, my friends, was a bit of a look-see at the new Corolla Hybrid. It's really been a great car to live with for the past 6 days, but they pick it up tomorrow. Of course, if you're getting the Hybrid and the more normal spec Corolla, you're not really looking for speed, so the power might not be a drawback for you. Around town, it's plenty fine. The highway is really when this thing feels tired. If you're looking into the Corolla Hybrid, I certainly recommend it, and you definitely will be satisfied. But I would stay tuned to maybe at least cross-shop the upcoming Civic Hybrid, because that one seems really enticing, and hopefully we get our hands on that in the coming months. But enough of my rambling. Again, the Corolla Hybrid is a great car. I really love the MPGs. It's so cheap to run, so cheap to put gas in it, and it barely uses any of the gas you put into it. But thank you guys for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Remember to hit the notification bell, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, peeps.